Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 246 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Courtney and Mike from Spiritbox, I want to remind you about the upcoming Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch at City Winery Boston on Saturday, March 22nd. Doors open at 11 a.m., music starts at noon. The unplugged set from Stone Temple Pilots performed by the Stone Temple Posers. The Mistress Carrie Grunge Brunch, Saturday, March 22nd at City Winery Boston. Get the details and the link to get tickets in the concert calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Courtney LaPlante and Mike Stringer from Spiritbox are getting ready to release the band's upcoming new album, Tsunami Sea, and heading out on a massive headlining tour, including a stop in Boston, Massachusetts at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on April 19th. We talked about their new puppy, the Grammys, and their local Grampa Eddie. Jacoby Shaddix from Papa Roach introduced me to them a couple years ago, but this is their first appearance on the Mistress Carrie podcast, so allow me to introduce you to Courtney LaPlante and Mike Stringer from Spiritbox. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Hi.
A couple years ago, Jacoby introduced us backstage at a show in New England, but this is the first time that I've been able to get you on the show. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. We love Jacoby.
Oh my God. That guy, I've never met anyone like him. Like the first time I met him was in Europe, and we were really tired. We had a really long tour that year. Like we were there for like 2 months straight. And I was so tired, but we wanted to go watch Papa Roach, and they're headlining, and they were playing at like 11. So we were like, I was like falling asleep, and I went up there, and he was like about to walk out on stage, and he got us all like, he was so fired up to like meeting us and hyping us up and good show, blah, 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 that like when he walked up on the stage, we were all like, no, let's stay up. We can do this. Like
he's very contagious that way.
Yeah. Like he going to do his show. He motivated us
not to
go
to
stay
sleep.
up. We're like, no, we're going to stay up here the whole time, baby.
Yeah.
We're that guy hyped us up. So like, he's just truly like that. He's so nice. He does that for everybody.
I talked to the guys from Memphis Mayfire recently. They called Jacoby like the Benjamin Button of rock and metal because he's aging backwards.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're right about that. It's crazy.
And we were really lucky when we toured with him. Like his wife got to come out a lot to the tour, and his son was on the whole tour.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where I met you. You and his wife were talking, and Jacoby kind of was like, ladies, I got to interrupt. You got to meet Carrie.
Yeah, they're awesome. And we love, usually be like, oh God, there's like an 11-year-old on the tour. But that kid was awesome. He would like, he like had jobs. Like he would go like put the set lists out, and he had his little walkie-talkie. Shout out to Brick. He's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to be on Dad's tour, you got to work.
Oh my God. Yeah. They made him do all his schooling and everything.
Not getting free catering, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right when you guys signed on, the first thing you did was apologize that there may be some background noise. And we have a thing on the show, we call it the geezer question. And it's because of Geezer Butler. And we were talking about all of the animal work that he does, and he told me that he has 13 cats and 5 dogs. That was my reaction.
Oh my God.
And when I asked him how he names them all and keeps them all straight, Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath told me he names all of his pets after gangster rappers and proceeded to rattle off more hip hop names than I could Google. He knows more about hip hop than almost anybody. And so after I fell on the floor laughing,
I didn't know that about him. That's
neither
cool.
did I. So now I have to ask every artist that comes on the show about their pets, but I never would have done it. So I blame Geezer. And you were like, we just got a puppy. The puppy might make noise. So tell me about the puppy.
Well, she has a funny story for her name as well. Her name is Getty, and she's half poodle and half Bernese Mountain Dog. She's only a year old, and she's 45 pounds. So we hope that was a fun surprise that she got that big. And
She's supposed to be a mini. She's not a mini.
Yeah, and very it doesn't really go with the traveling lifestyle to have a giant dog, but she's gonna come on tour as soon as she's like not a absolute psycho, which we're hoping will be in the next couple of years.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But okay, her name, it's hard to say to tell the story without bragging, kind of, but you can tell her.
I've always wanted to have a dog named Spaghetti. So like the entire time that me and Courtney have been together, it's like
12
when are we
years.
getting spaghetti? When are we getting spaghetti? And so it was the night before last year's Grammy nominations. We never gotten one. We never thought we'd ever get one, obviously. And Courtney had gone out with a few friends.
With Josh's wife.
And another mutual friend. And she came back and, she had a few drinks and we were just chatting. And I'm sitting there and I went, Courtney, tomorrow morning's Grammy nomination.
We better go to sleep.
Better go to sleep. And she was like, we're never going to get one. It doesn't matter.
I don't give a shit about that.
And I said, I don't know. Like, you never know, right? And then she goes, I'll tell you what. If we get a Grammy nomination, we'll get spaghetti.
I said, we'll get spaghetti. I'll get you a dog and I'll train the dog for you.
And then we woke up and we got the nom. So that's why we have spaghetti.
Yeah.
We're talking before the Grammys happen. And so this is your second nomination. And you could be the first woman to win a Best Metal Performance Grammy.
Yeah, which is crazy. I think that the first woman to win the Grammy is going to be the lady that sang opera on the Gojira song.
Marina Viotti.
Like, come on. They just like, if they win, if any of them win, I feel like in this type of music and like metal, there's only one Grammy award. Like no small metal band would ever, it's not like something that we think about. Like we don't think about awards because that's just not really like a part of most of our lives other than like metal specific award, like it just feels so weird to even think about that. But especially if Gojira wins, like, come on, they played 1 billion people watched their Olympic performance. They've had the same lineup I didn't know that because we toured with them this fall. They had the same lineup 30 years. They're on their 30th year as a band and they've never changed a member.
Which is insane because I ask bands all the time, what's harder to keep together, a band or a marriage? No one ever says marriage.
No.
It's crazy. You're in a relationship with 4 or 5 different people.
Yeah, I'm like, there's all these dudes. But we're lucky. Our guys are like very supportive and there's no egos in our band.
I'm also married to 2 dudes.
Yeah, and he's legally married to me.
Yeah.
So he has to be nice.
Contractually obligated.
Yeah. But yeah, that's so cool. Like imagine they've done 30 years of like the craziest experiences together.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch it live? Because everybody that I've interviewed was like, it seemed like the whole world stopped as soon as they took it was insane.
Well, we were traveling. We were on tour. And
we were in Europe. So
we were in Europe and Courtney's stepdad, who like doesn't listen to metal, obviously was like, who's Gojira? Like he just texted us out of the blue. And I said, oh, they're like a great metal band. Why?
We're touring with them next month.
And then the next text was the link to their Olympic performance. And I went, no way. Like that's absolutely crazy.
Because I was just saying this to somebody else, but it's like the dream to both. I mean, that's probably the biggest moment in the history of metal that like numbers wise and audience wise to ever happen. And then to have that happen and then also to still be so controversial and like offensive.
It's perfect.
Is
like it cracked me up that it was so offensive, quote unquote, because it literally was paying homage to the history of their country.
Yeah, and it's about like it's like the revolution and
French, like
it's French as hell.
Yeah.
And so I love that it like stressed people out.
Rustled feathers.
It's kind of like we were saying to someone else, it's the same as like another big moment for like our type of music. This metal this year was Knocked Loose playing and Poppy playing on Jimmy Kimmel, who they're also nominated. And if they win, Poppy would be the first to win, a woman to win. And I love, it was so cool because they did so well and they had such a great audience. And then also like people were so offended and stressed about it. So it's like, you don't have to like, you don't have to like compromise what you like your sound or your image or something. That's like everyone's dream is like, you can be yourself, not compromise and pay, be respected by your fans, really stress out people who don't like that kind of music and perhaps find some people who have never been exposed to this type of music before that will, you've made a huge impression on them and they'll start exploring that.
Those two moments are going to lead a lot of people to metal that would have, never listened to it before, which is amazing.
I got told very early on in my radio career that unless people were complaining, I wasn't working hard enough and doing a good enough job, because when they care enough to complain, that means you're moving the needle. And so
we always say that, we always say if you, the second that you have negative comments about your music, when you're a new band, you should celebrate that because it means it's left your friend group that's obviously going to like coddle you.
Yeah, it's left your little bubble.
And be like, you're great, you're doing great, sweetie. And you've left that local community and gone out into a new audience where people feel comfortable saying that you suck.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because Spiritbox has found a way to really kind of use the whole spice rack in the recipe. And you go from these amazing melodic kind of symphonic moments to it literally sounding like you are channeling Satan himself through your vocals. And I think for people that are kind of putting their toe in the water with the music and they hear your more melodic stuff, when they hear you start growling and screaming, that is going to scare people, especially because you're a woman and especially because of your aesthetic and appearance, that people can't put it in a box. They don't know what to do with it, so they complain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, is when I was a kid and I was listening to heavier music, it took me until like one night, late at night, when in Canada, it was Channel 51, it was Much Music. They had a show called The Wedge, and they'd play all this obscure
like
music,
alternative
like all music and stuff like that. But Alexisonfire was featured on there before they were like actually, pushed to be a main act or whatever.
They were on like the countdowns, just like it was like Britney Spears and then Let's on Fire.
I was 15 and I watched Pulmonary Archery for the first time, that music video where they're in that little house and they're running around.
Yeah.
And I hated it at first. I was like, why is he just screaming? Like, I love the singing, but like, why is he just screaming? It's horrible. Then all of a sudden, after like 2 weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about it and something just clicked. And I think it's the same thing with our band or other metal bands or whatever. At first, no matter if it's Courtney or if it's Joe from Gojira or if it's, Brian from Knocked Loose, it's very polarizing at first, but there's something about it that, for the people that it clicks with, like it makes sense. And of course, it's like anything. It's like some stuff's just not going to click with people, and that's okay. It's not everything is designed to agree with everybody. But this style of music, once you're in it and you get it, it's like you're obsessed.
I always wonder, like, I wonder about this sometime, like, in an abstract way, like, how different, like, depending on, like, if you just pick 3 random songs and each person picks 3 random songs of our discography, they would maybe depending on what they picked, have a completely different idea of like the type of music our band plays. And for me, like personally, that is me, like that's us like not compromising ever what we want to do, never changing like our music to suit a certain audience or like make a certain audience comfortable and feel like confident in what our genre is. And I always wonder if that's like a strength or a weakness because like regardless, we will always be compelled to just do what we want. And I always wonder if that's like going to be the thing that like allows us to go to the next level or if it's like a downfall because it's like a messaging problem, you know?
I don't think it's a messaging problem because I think
know?
if you look at some of the greatest bands ever, you look at a band like Zeppelin, you look at a band like the Beatles, you look at Queen, you could pick 3 songs from their discographies that would sound like 3 completely different bands too.
Yeah. All the other genres of music we listen to, that's very normal because it's like each album is like a little time capsule and like era of what their influences are or like what they're compelled to make at that time. But I feel like in our genre, I think it's because everyone's like always really worried about a band like selling out or becoming more mainstream by having like singing in it. Um, I think it stresses people out because they almost feel like it's like the band's like abandoning them, you know, and like trying to get a different audience. But I think that's why we never think about that because just we've always had all different types of songs in our.
Well, we just love all types of music, so
Yeah.
it's more natural for us to do what we're compelled to do because of our influences versus just keep things the same every single time.
And I used to be like, well, hold on, we only have like 10 songs, so like there's lots of room to make all types of music. And now that we have like 40, right, we have like 40 songs, like
Something like that.
you can see like just all the different references and inspirations and genres that like make us who we are.
Well, the range of your voice also gives you a lot of freedom because I can do one thing with mine. It does one thing, radio, voiceover, like that's all it does. But you have this amazing ability to be melodic and beautiful and smooth and to be able to go all the way to the opposite side of the spectrum. Not everybody's voice can do that. So it actually gives the band a lot of freedom to take chances with the music too, I think anyway.
We're very fortunate that Courtney has such a wide range and she's able to do so much with her voice because it, as you say, it doesn't really limit me as far as writing the songs and what we can do. I think also she is like, I have never met someone that just knows every song. Like if we're just like walking around and like there's a song in the background I never heard, I'm like, what is this? She'll be like, oh, it's blah 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 by so and so. And it's always been like that. So she's like a almost like a encyclopedia of just like different references and stuff. So whenever we're writing and we're recording and stuff, she'll pull up references and they always blow me away because I'm like, I've never even heard of this and I'm 33 years old. Like where the hell have I been? So I think that she pulls from so many different genres and so many different acts, and that can only help us in a way with certain techniques that we use mixing wise or vocal production or whatever. Yeah, and it's really it puts no limitations on certain aspects of our writing.
You know, I in any band I've been in, I never like wrote the instrumentals. So when you're a vocalist, you're at the mercy of the person writing the song, and you have to, if you can't contribute instrumentally, like you must adapt and serve the song. So just the songwriters I've written with were my little brother and when we were in a band together and when I wrestled a bear once and then always kind of consistently throughout that, Michael, since we started making music together in like 2012. And so, you have to adapt to what the inspiration of the person making it. And then it becomes like this feedback loop where you're both like influencing each other's writing.
Well, the new album, Tsunami Sea, comes out on March 7th. You're going to be in Boston at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway coming up on April 19th. And before you get to Boston, that show you're doing with Bring Me the Horizon in Mexico City is going to be insane.
No, we did it.
We actually did it.
You already did it?
No more big shows like that. No more. I can't take it. It's scary.
It was insane. We did Brazil and Mexico with them before the year end, and it was Brazil especially was on another level, but Mexico as well was just
the metal fans there are on a whole other plane of passion.
I've never experienced anything like it, and it was just so crazy to like. How many people were at the Brazil show? Like 50,000 people. They that Bring Me played to. Like I couldn't. It was just so weird. Like this type, any sort of like heavy music or strange. Bring Me the Horizon has always been different than their peers. We always think of them as this huge band, but they weren't. People like other musicians did not get what they were doing like 20 years ago.
For a long time.
They've always been like pioneers. So it was just so crazy to kind of like listen to their whole discography in front of 40,000 people that knew every word to every song. And it was interesting because we happened to be there the first day that they started creating this show back in 2023. And then we happened to be there at the very end of this huge production, the last shows that they did. And it was just so crazy to watch like a show evolve like that. And there's just like no complacency in that band of like keep pushing like the production and like the craziness of a stadium show, let alone an arena show. It was really cool, like very inspiring.
Something that's been happening in rock and metal more over the last couple years than ever before is something hip hop's been doing for decades, which is the collabs and the features, which you guys have been doing. But every artist I talk to says the same thing, that they're shocked that rock and metal didn't do it as often as they're doing it now. And they're talking about how it's really elevating the entire rock and metal community, that it's bringing all the boats up in the harbor because there's so many collabs now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. We even if it's just like a live version of something, it's like, it's so awesome. And here's our gripe in metal, it's always a feature, not a collab. And it's really like, people don't get to write together. So it's like someone will write a whole song and then leave you a little part and you're just in that one little part. But we like stuff where it feels very intentional, like
a duet,
or like the person's has more of like a footprint or a fingerprint like on the song. But that's kind of how it's always been in all of our music, because none of us have the privilege of like time and money and to coordinate all that stuff, So I think that finally like our genre is like really inspired by that. And then people are figuring out, due to the technology now, where you can like send each other stuff without ever meeting each other before, we are all able to like just to experiment with that, which I think is really cool.
I think both genres have a mutual respect for one another.
Yeah, because it's always like, even like rap and metal are heavy.
Yeah.
Big, heavy songs.
And there's always been that kind of mutual respect. You go back decades to like the Judgment Night soundtrack or Public Enemy and Anthrax. I mean, if you want to bring in Aerosmith and Run DMC as kind of a pioneer in that whole thing, it's that music of the people. It's the angst. It's the voice of dissent. And so it makes sense that they kind of fit together.
Yes. And it's crazy, now like someone like our drummer in our band, Zev, he's a lot younger than us. It's probably weird for us to explain that, like, even like before we were born, like rap was this like counterculture underground subgenre of people like creating stories and community and an identity, because now it's one of the biggest genres in the world, but that's, I think, another thing that it really shares with metal is that it was like a counterculture thing that then like kind of slid into being huge and accessible. And so it's really changed a lot and evolved. So like, I think that's maybe why there's always been that connection too.
And music used to be a lot more siloed than it is now. That, you said, this is the band I like, this is what it says about me, and all of that other stuff sucks. And now, whether it be the internet, these features and collabs, people just being more open-minded, whatever it is, we've seen that people's musical tastes are way more varied than I think we ever gave them credit for.
Yeah, it's like I used to think of it like this, like in our old bands and stuff, it's like the internet is weird and it can make some things bad, but then at the same time, without the internet, people like us would never have ever had a shot ever making any sort of career off of music. Like there's just no chance that we would ever have gone to do that. So I think that for people like collecting influences from other music, because you don't have to stumble upon it in a record store. Like you can just put your music on random on YouTube or Spotify and like discover some new stuff without having to have like happened to be in a town where that artist traveled through.
I mean, even platforms allowing people to remix stuff together and smash stuff together. I mean, without that, you probably wouldn't have certain moments that have happened, so.
It's very cool. Well, you guys have a new album coming out, Tsunami Sea, and then obviously we're going to get you in Boston April 19th at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway, so we can't wait to get you in town.
That's a big, I thought there was a typo and I saw that the venue capacity, but we love playing that area. Like it's always,
the Northeast has very passionate rock and metal fans.
Yeah. Like, have you ever, I've just noticed that there's always been even in a more underground thing, like Western Massachusetts, there's always been this really big hardcore scene.
I just talked to Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage about this a couple of weeks ago. We're mad. We don't know why we're so pissed off, but we're mad and we like our music accordingly.
There's a bunch of Irish Catholic people. They're all depressed and mad. My whole family on my dad's side is from Holyoke and Chicopee and stuff. So I grew up every summer going there. And when me and my brother started listening to metal, one time we convinced our grandpa when we were visiting in the summer to take us to the Palladium in Worcester to go see.
Which is a chapel of rock and metal.
And we couldn't believe that type of music, where we were from, that only ever touched to a community hall to 50 teenagers. And it was so crazy to see that touch. We're wow, there's it's a bunch of grown ass people in here. It's not just us and our little friends in a community hall. It was really cool. And so I feel like I've always just, that's where I started seeing, a community of bands come from, like Acacia Strain, and it was awesome. It had its own little, that area has this own little culture that really influenced all of our music.
Oh yeah.
Well, don't be intimidated by the MGM. It's a big room, but it's an awesome room for music.
Yeah, I think
we've heard great things.
I think that the Boston crowd is going to have a lot of fun, and when we played there on our first headline tour too, it was definitely one of the highlights of the tour. So we have high expectations for you guys.
That was the highlight of the tour for me, and also because your Grandpa Eddie was there and he was dancing.
Dude, yeah, my Grandpa Eddie was rocking out to After the Burial and us up on the balcony, and it was really funny because after he was hey, it was all the people around me were singing along. I was yeah, dude, they know the songs. Grandpa Eddie is he's in his late 80s. He'll be 90 soon, and he will be there.
Please tell me you make a custom Grandpa Eddie laminate for the tour. He needs
Grandpa Eddie needs
own.
a laminate.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get him a lammy.
He always is just decked out in Spiritbox stuff. He'll be up in the balcony again. You know, we're like, here's a chair for you. And he's like, hell no. He'll be up there rocking.
Well, keep an eye on him because if you go through the loading dock area, the MGM, there is a door that goes out into center field of the park. And
well,
so
he will definitely be trying to do that. And
that's why I'm telling you to keep your eyes on Grampa Eddie because he'll be out in center field at Fenway if you don't watch him.
Grampa Eddie's going to try to steal a chair from Fenway Park. He's going to bring a screwdriver.
Throw a pitch.
And take a chair and bring it back to his house.
I can't wait to see you guys in April. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you for having us. See you soon again.
Right, we'll see you soon. There they are, Courtney and Mike from Spiritbox. Their new album, Tsunami Sea, comes out on March 7th, and their headlining tour hits the road with a stop in Boston at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway on April 19th. Tickets are on sale now, and if you head to the show, keep your eyes out for Grampa Eddie. Courtney was 100% dead on with her prediction about who was going to win the Best Metal Performance Grammy. If you want to check out Spiritbox's music, check the link for this episode's corresponding playlist in the show notes. I make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that features all of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we referenced in the interview. You'll also find all the band's links, Mike and Courtney's links, and the Mistress Carrie links. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and comment on the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday, plus every weekday you get the sit rep. All of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates in about 5 minutes. And this week's bonus episode features Barry Kirch from Shinedown. Join me live every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern for my weekly streaming video show, Cocktails in the War Room. And of course, you can always find me on the radio. Get the list of stations for the Mistress Carrie radio show and so much more at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.